The sun is an Asubha planet because it really expects nothing else from us than trying to become our best version, right? And just like the sun is the center of the universe and shining brightly, the sun in the horoscope is similarly focused on itself and realizing its full potential, right? The sun is focused on shining its light into the world. And so the primary goal of the sun is self-actualization, which means fulfilling its higher purpose. And when the sun focuses on its higher purpose, then naturally those around it will benefit from its light, from its benevolence, and from the security that it creates. And the sun really doesn't therefore need to adapt or change itself, so that it can fit in with others, right? The sun, just like in the sky, can just shine as it is, and everyone is going to benefit from it. And so this means in the horoscope that the sun really dedicates all its time and energy to the development and success of its own Rashi. And this also means that it may sacrifice the Rashis that it conjuncts and aspects if they don't support its own agenda, okay? In the end, all that matters for the sun is to shine in its greatest glory and to always stay true to its core mission. Now, what happens with an afflicted sun? An afflicted sun really has a hard time shining their own light, okay? They have a hard time finding their personal path to success and recognition. And instead, they might prefer to just follow someone else's path and follow someone else's dreams and support them, okay? But when the sun is well dignified and supported in the horoscope, then a person is convinced about the success of their own mission. So now let's talk about Mars. Why is Mars considered an Asubha planet? Well, Mars is the warrior, right? Mars is always out and about fighting a battle. And Mars fights for what is right, and he protects his achievements. And those battles that he fights, they are usually directed towards its own Rashis. Now that doesn't mean that he doesn't get involved with the Rashis that he influences. He does, but usually he doesn't do that in a positive way. There is usually some type of a collateral damage involved with those other Rashis, right? It's just like in a real war. When there's a battle, innocent people sometimes get caught in the crossfire. And so therefore some of Mars's intensity and aggression that is put on his own Rashis, that can spill over into other Rashis or other areas of life and cause damage there. Now, if Mars is in its own sign dignity or higher, then that collateral damage is reduced to a minimum, okay? Because Mars then is very disciplined, he's very focused, and he can channel his energy more wisely and avoid causing unnecessary harm to other Rashis, right? He is able to fight only sort of the battles that truly matter, and he doesn't create chaos in areas that he's not responsible for. But when Mars is afflicted in the horoscope, then he becomes easily angry when things don't go the way he wants. And he can lose his temper, get out of control, and then the damage becomes a lot more difficult to manage. So now let's explore Ketu. Ketu is also an Asubha planet, and Ketu, just like Rahu, is also a shadow planet. But Ketu is quite different than Rahu. So what exactly is Ketu? Well, Ketu rules three things: past life experiences, discontentment, and liberation. And so the signs that Ketu influences, this is where we experience a deep sense of discontentment. And the reason is because the Ketu area we have already done for a very long time, possibly lifetimes. And in this lifetime, we are meant to come to a certain sense of completion. Okay, and so that is the reason why Ketu is telling us to make peace with it, because it has served its purpose, and now it's time to move on. And this is the way for us to evolve. When Ketu is in his own sign, dignity, or exalted, then a person can come to a satisfying conclusion. Okay, they are at peace with what they have achieved, and they're also able to transition into something that they really like. In fact, when Ketu is in great dignity, then not only what a person has experienced, they are very happy about it and content of whatever it is that happened, but then they can also let go, because they know that whatever next they are going to get into is going to be even better. Okay. Now, when Ketu is mediocre, then the conclusion is going to barely make the person feel good. And they are also very hesitant actually to move forward into the next chapter of their life. And if Ketu is debilitated, then it is going to be really hard for a person to accept how bad something turned out in their life, right? So they really have to learn a very tough lesson. But nevertheless, they still need to try to let go and move on, even though it might be very hard for them to accept how disappointing something in their life turned out to be. So now let's talk about the waning moon. The waning moon is also an Asubha planet, but it is the least inauspicious of all the Asubha planets. It is still the moon, and the moon is this beautiful, bright planet at night in the sky. Right? The moon rules our inner foundation, our peace and happiness, family and home. And so it is this beautiful planet. But when the moon is waning, then it is a little bit inauspicious. And the reason is because it represents diminished energy. Right? So when the moon is waning each day, it has less energy. And as it has less energy, then it can also give less energy. And so there's this feeling that it just doesn't have enough energy left to take care of other areas, okay? And so it becomes naturally more focused on its own Rashi, right? And so when the external fulfillment of the waning moon fades, then he needs to withdraw and conserve his energy, right? And to spend more time and energy on its own Rashi, on maintaining his emotional balance. And when he again feels full of energy, then he can sort of adapt to the situation and then look for something new, fulfilling in the external environment again. Okay, but the waxing moon, on the other hand, doesn't need to do that. The waxing moon can just appreciate something fulfilling more and more, and can then also just naturally sort of share his emotional support with the other Rashis. Now, because the waning moon is an Asubha planet, there is sort of a tendency to interact with other Rashis more out of obligation than actually genuine emotional fulfillment, right? And this can also increase the emotional stress for the person, right? And so the areas that the waning moon influences can become a source of strain and emotional burden as a result. As always, the Asubha planets are about learning lessons and overcoming challenges to live a more fulfilling life. And so the waning moon teaches about the importance of turning inward when energy is low, but also not to expect too much from people or the outside world. So there's really a need for the person to develop more their own emotional well-being, so that then in return they're also more emotionally available to others.